Some people might say, ew, she's using food waste to create food containers.
Wow.
It's really a second chance to these containers and to the materials. Every step of the way, you're thinking to yourself, am I doing the right thing? If you have a solution to a large enough problem and you can make that into a business, go for it. The whole key to entrepreneurship is make sure you're solving a global problem and you can make money out of it. This is FDA and SFA certified. You can actually pour boiling water, microwave it. Listen, you have something here. You need to make the decision, and I'm not making any promises to you.
And what other growth opportunities do you see?
We want to really be that homegrown startup that can.
Today, we have with us Karen Cheah, who is the founder and CEO of startup AlterPacks. AlterPacks is a sustainable packaging brand founded to tackle waste pollution by creating a new biodegradable and compostable material to replace plastics. With a strong determination to solve global problem of waste pollution through her startup, Karen shares with us her journey from quitting her media job to becoming a full-time entrepreneur, the key ingredients and success factors for a sustainable business to take off, and her thoughts on giving second chances to waste materials and, of course, people. Hi, Karen. Thanks so much for being on our show today. Really excited to be speaking with you on your journey. It's been quite a journey, isn't it?
Yes, likewise. Thank you, Eric, for having me.
Could you give us a little bit of flavor of what's the origin of AlterPacks and the inspiration behind it, really?
So the genesis of AlterPacks lies in garbage.
Okay.
And a lot of it came when I was working as a media person. You're always on the other side of the fence, isn't it?
Yes.
You're observing and you're reporting. So in those journeys, I observed a tremendous amount of garbage, a lot of it made out of food waste and plastics, plastic packaging, plastic food containers that were choking whole communities. And so when I started and I did my master's in science and innovation, I was given the opportunity to tackle a global problem as part of my final project. They call it the capstone. And they said, solve a global problem. Don't solve something that you know is easy. Solve something that's a global problem. And to me, it was really about, plastics, food waste, pollution. Why not try and solve that? And so being very fortunate because you're in media and you have a tremendous amount of contacts that you can use. And I use that as a launchpad to actually capitalize on the contacts I have, co-develop, work with a lot of scientists as well as industry partners. And that's how we got AlterPacks today.
Nice. And AlterPacks is like a fresh take, right, on a traditional packaging and cardboard material. So how do you actually recycle food waste to get that started for your company?
Yeah, so I think, some people might say, ew, she's using food waste to create food containers. But
I've not really thought of that. But
I just want to be very, very clear. The food waste we use is homogeneous food waste, and it's the food waste that food manufacturers are disposing. So that comes from Milo, beer waste. So every time you drink Milo, you make me very happy because that means you're throwing out more malt and cereals. It's disposed. That's why we call it spent grains. It's been spent. And so we take these spent grains, we process it. Our proprietary technology allows us to process it, dry it. If you look at the spent grains that emerges from the factory, it's wet, and as they would say in Hokkien, tao sung, it's already wet and it will get rancid very quickly. And our proprietary technology allows us to dry it and process it, and we make it into two forms. One will be the actual containers, and the other one will be biopellets. And these pellets will replace the petroleum-based resins, and they can go into standard manufacturing machines.
Wow. So literally you're building materials from scratch and then putting them through a process to create a byproduct.
Well, I would say that we're taking what is being thrown out, and it's not as if there's no value to that material now. The spent grains are being used as animal feed, they're being used as compost, or they're disposed in landfills. What we are doing is a valorization process, meaning that we're upcycling it, creating something of value so that it can go back into the whole ecosystem. So don't throw it away. Don't throw it away. Let's keep it recycling and going back again into the whole system.
Giving a second chance as well.
Yeah. Wow. It's really a second chance to these containers and to the materials.
Wow. it sounds like there's a lot of work involved. What about the cost? Is it comparable then to the production of plastic?
I think we have to take into consideration that plastics have a head start of over 100 years. And so there have been a lot of, I would say that the plastic manufacturers and those who have been working on plastics, they've already gotten that head start of the innovation. What we are doing now is doing this speed ramp. And we have to really push, exponentially. The cost of our containers right now, we are not competitive with plastics. But we expect that to happen once we have sufficient volume. And as we progress with that volume, I would say 2 years down the road, we would certainly be competitive with plastic containers.
Nice. What do you think is the demand for sustainable packaging like yours in the market right now?
I think we're at the right time. I think a lot of times when you're looking at startups and opportunities, it's not as if the startup has got no idea or they are not sure of the competitive landscape. A lot of it has got to do with timing. And the timing right now is really good because this is where you have the governments pretty much having legislation going against single-use plastics. You have increasing consumer awareness, Generation Z, millennials, all really spurring off this growth, and which I think that consciousness is just amazing. This is an amazing generation that we are facing. And in addition to that, ironically, COVID-19 has spurred the growth of single-use containers because of food and hygiene reasons. So for these three factors, it is the most opportune, and really it's just this whole awareness level has speed ramped our entire production and the opportunities for us.
Sounds like timing is really an important factor for the success of a startup like yours. Why is it? Maybe you can share with us why is it such a timely opportunity for you to pursue a Master's of Science and Innovation in SMU and also having now embarked on your second career?
I would say that when I embarked on this journey to go and do my Master's of Science and Innovation, I had to toss between wanting to do an MBA. So for those of you who are thinking, do I do an MBA or do I do something? It really depends on what your end goal is. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to be a financial controller. But the reason I had been gradually moving, not totally out of media, but there was a huge segue outside of the media area, was simply because I had come at a point in my career in media. And there is a huge fork in the road when you have to retrench a whole lot of people. And I had to do that. I had to retrench a whole lot of people across the Asia Pacific because media was coming to that fork in the road with Netflix, digitalization.
A lot of transformation involved.
Exactly. And you have to ask these people who have devoted their lives 10, 15 years and then say thank you very much for your service, and then they have to go off somewhere else. And I was thinking, it was done in the name of digitalization and innovation. And I said, this can't be it. So that's why I went to do my master's. So if you're asking me about timing, here's the thing I'll say about timing. It's not as if I grasped and I could read a crystal ball and say that, oh, you know, I did my master's 2 years ago. Now 2 years later, packaging and the innovation required to replace plastic containers is an opportune moment. No one has that crystal ball. But what I would say about this is that it was about solving a global problem. And if you have a solution to a large enough problem that you can solve and you can make that into a business, go for it. That would be my advice. Just go for it. And so it was really about looking at a problem that I could solve with the talent of the people that I was innovating with and collaborating with. And it was a situation where we grasped the opportunity, started with a very small grant from SMU's Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And we had to speed ramp our way, started a lab at home and all that.
I'm sure it's not easy to manage your studies at the same time running a full-time and then also starting a lab at home. Tell us about the experience about that.
So I have to say, in terms of chronological order, it was like grappling my studies because at that time, I was still holding a full-time media job. I was actually the general manager of Asia working on app development for children in STEM learning. So it was releasing a STEM, and then my headquarters office was in Berlin. And I was traveling every week as I was still doing my studies. it was after that that I decided to move into the entrepreneurship space, when one of my lecturers actually pulled me aside when I had pitched my idea for my capstone project. He said, listen, you have something here. You need to make the decision, and I'm not making any promises to you that you can actually make money from this, but there is potential. But you need to make the decision as to whether you want to go into and make this into a startup, or you can go back into media. And at that point in time, if you had asked me, would I be a media person or would I be a startup person, I would have told you, media. There's no way I'm going to be a startup person. But I think a lot of things, it was just that opportunity. And so I decided to go for it. I would say to any entrepreneur out there, just take the money, but make sure you know what to do with that money. And for me, it was that grant that any other person might say, what can you do with $10,000 Sing dollars? You can do a lot.
If you're resourceful.
Yeah, it was a lot because we were very focused on what we had to do. We had to start from the ground up. I had no actual material, but I had to start from the ground up. I asked my mother if I could actually use an empty room in our house, and I converted that into a laboratory. I hired my own researcher. We went shopping for materials, the scientific materials, to a fish shop, buying the fish tank, turning it and making it into a bioconverter. I think any scientist out there listening will say like, oh my gracious, how clean is that? You know what? When push comes to shove, you do what you have to because you're in the guerrilla mode.
The mindset is you've got to bootstrap every single dollar.
You bootstrap, you make every dollar count, and I have to show something, right? There's no point coming to you and say, hey, Eric, I've got this great idea. You know, and you're going to say, show me. So that was the point. It was the show me, you know, and having that opportunity to get that grant, and my mother, bless her soul, you know, for having that faith, bringing in food waste on a daily basis.
Does it smell?
Going out. Of course. I mean, anyone who says, you know, it's tau sung, it's rancid, you know. Yeah. So yes, it's all these early stages where you start building it up and finally you get something, you know. And so the rest, as they say, you build up.
Any fears you had to overcome making that transition?
Oh my. I think every step of the way you're thinking to yourself, am I doing the right thing? I mean, in the first place, you're thinking like, look, my basic degree, I'm from NUS, my degree was in mathematics, my honors degree was in history.
Wow.
I went to SMU, I did my master's in science and innovation. There's nothing in that that says researcher.
You're quite the polymath, isn't it?
I wish I was, but no. What I would say is that media training gives you the ability to observe trends, and that's the first thing you learn in innovation. What are the mega trends? Where's it going? And then also learning to form connections, use your networks. And you know that you are not smart. Go find people who are smarter than you. And that's what I think my talent was really, in the ability to connect with people who are so much smarter than me and had that same passion to solve this global problem.
And isn't it really humbling from, you know, being in a high flyer in the media scene and now doing startup, creating your own products and knocking on doors and all that? How's that transition for you?
I think humbling is a very understated word. It is an amazing opportunity. You learn, you bootstrap, you realize that you don't know what you don't know. And it's really about growth, and it's about getting to the point where you know your startup can have enough legs for you to build on.
And what is the biggest challenge that you have faced, you know, with building AlterPacks across the few years?
I would say that it's about people, because just as you find the right talent and the people and you get the experiments, it's not about finding money, it's about keeping the team. And you hear a lot of times people will be saying that don't do a startup on your own. They're correct. There are so many obstacles you have to overcome. I think the first, of course, is normal skepticism. Then after that is your own faith and your ability to get the team together that you can actually do this startup, solve the problems. And so it's just one challenge after another. If I had to put it into a bucket list, it would be an overflowing bucket of never-ending challenges.
Of course, yes. Especially when it comes to unforeseen circumstance. I don't know, production, marketing,
Yeah.
Perhaps there's some crisis to manage.
It was a crisis every other day. And,
To put fire, put on fire.
And it was not about marketing because we're a startup. We are starting from scratch. There was nothing to market. But it was really building the science and getting the team to get to a point where we now have something to market. I mean, the whole satisfaction of seeing our containers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And was it difficult to convince stakeholders to invest in your startup or convince people to buy from you?
I think, earlier you said the word humbling. I think it is a very, very strong learning from the bottom up, because I have to come to you as an investor and I say, you see this small thing that I'm presenting to you, this can be something bigger. And that person on the other side has to have that faith that, do you have the right team? Are you the right kind of person? Why should I invest? And really it's about when you move from running budgets of in the millions to now asking for a few $1,000s. You really learn that I need to be able to convince you that I know what I'm doing and that every single penny that you give me will be put to good use.
And that is really the power of entrepreneurship, right? The resourcefulness that we have to harness within ourselves to really make every dollar count. And eventually, when things start to get better, it becomes so much easier to roll out as well.
I would say that the whole key to entrepreneurship is make sure you're solving a global problem and you can make money out of it. Make sure it's a global problem, not something that you feel like, oh, I have the science for this, let me go and find the problem. Approach it from finding the right problem and making sure that it's a big enough scale that people are saying that, oh, I really want this to be solved. I can put my money in this because you're the only one. You have the solution I want and I'm looking for.
What are really the key ingredients for the success of a startup, especially for a sustainable business?
1, make sure you're solving a large enough problem.
Yeah,
2, make sure you have the right team members. 3, bootstrap. Whether you like it or not, you have to put in your own monies to get to a point where people are going to then say, okay, you put your money where your mouth is. The lesson to be learned here really is about, are you actually able to harness upon what you've started to build, commercialize it, bring it to the next stage? And a lot of times you hear about the startups that have gone and become unicorns, even the founders get replaced. And that's because the board feels that at this level of commercialization, you're not the right person for the job. So I think that's why for early stage startups like ours, the investors come and they say, we invest in the team. We look at why you are the only people who can come up with that solution. And so there is that moment where as a team, you really need to make sure you've got the right members. And these are the people who will be the ones who will go with you on that journey. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yeah.
And we hear a lot about you speaking about team members and all that. How did you build your team over the last few years?
We had switch-ins and switch-outs. And it really helps that within my class, I had some amazing people that I could turn to. And so my CFO right now, Herbin, he was my classmate.
Oh, nice.
And when I had received my grant from SMU, I had to actually figure out how to do unit cost and do all the financial stuff.
The
and
management
I kept running.
accounting.
Yeah, and I couldn't do it. And Herbin's expertise is in finance and
Running the
financial
numbers.
strategy, and he loves spreadsheets. So I kept running to him and I said, Herbin, can you help me? Can you help? And then I think at maybe the 10th time he said, hey, you know what? Let me come on board. I'll help you. I'll be your team member. And it's been a great, partnership.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then we have our COO, Stephen, whose expertise is in manufacturing. And he actually had a very, very high paying job and several opportunities. He gave all of that up to join.
What is it that people are looking for when they are like you guys, right? High up in the corporate ladder, and then suddenly, I don't know, what happened?
I think you have to be convinced that what you're doing is meaningful and you can make a change. You can make a difference. And in order to capture and capitalize on that difference, it's about the talent that you have and you're the people who can do it. So I think we've all come from different forks in our lives, but yes, we all have given up very good salaries. But what we look at is not about that kind of financial payout now. So you have to sacrifice.
Yes.
None of us are taking a salary.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, it's a trade-off. And it's something that we are prepared to do because we believe in our startup and we believe that we can actually do it. It's just going to be the next step. I mean, we can always earn money, but now it's about getting that startup off into that commercialization.
And what is next for AlterPacks?
I mean, the vision of AlterPacks really is to be as ubiquitous as plastics.
As like
So
Kleenex is to
yeah,
tissue paper.
yeah, exactly, exactly, and to be able to use and give food waste a second chance, and I think that's a very important part of it.
And there is some kind of tie-up with the Indonesian government as well. Is that something of liberty to share?
So the tie-up is more with the United Nations Development Programme team in Indonesia as part of the EPIC Challenge, financed by the Norwegian government, and we are combating plastic pollution in the Mandalika area. And we also actually have used and started the launch of the AlterPacks containers as part of the Motor Grand Prix that took place recently.
And what's the difference between the work that you're doing there now and in Singapore?
So in Singapore, we use it as an innovation center, and that's essentially where we are doing our R&D. We capture what we can based on the resources available in Singapore. You have to remember, we are a 3-year-old startup caught in a 2.5-year-old pandemic.
Yes.
And we actually are using, to create our pellets, we use semiconductor manufacturing partners to help us with it. And our containers are made in other parts of the world and they come out to Singapore. But in Singapore, we do the R&D and we also create the pellets. These are bio pellets that can then be used in existing plastic manufacturing machines. We work with local partners in Singapore to actually test our pellets and then see if their machines are okay with the pellets. And so far, we jammed the machines at first, but we have fortunately got over the jamming. Yes.
And then there's a lot of testing and experimenting.
Yeah, it's an iteration process. It's really like design thinking.
Yep.
You pretty much think of it as I iterate, I come back, I solve, I iterate, I go back, I solve again. Yeah.
What other case usage that you think your materials can do for the world?
So here's the thing. We are currently creating food containers with the material. The material can be molded into any shape. So we are looking at potential, in fact, with e-commerce, because you would receive your e-commerce. I mean, it's so much of this cardboard that we are using when we're, and then a small little, I think a small comb that can come in an e-commerce box that is like 5 times the size, wrapped in a bubble wrap. So we're hoping that when we see the future with the AlterPacks material being molded into different shapes.
Fantastic.
And then being used for e-commerce.
Okay.
We also have the potential to use it for agriculture, because right now when you go to any nursery, you will see the plants being wrapped in plastic, right? So our material could be molded into these makeshift flower pots, and then you can bury everything together, right?
And then it will just compost.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. If you could write a book, actually, we've been talking a lot about giving second chances to the material. Would it be about that?
Yes. I would say that, based on the roots of where I came from and how the genesis of AlterPacks came about, it was about garbage. It was about going into an industry that you may not have the expertise in, but you work with the people who have that expertise. They're willing to give you a second chance. I would say that the book, if it was called, if a book about my life, I would call it Second Chances. And it's about materials that you have to stop this throwaway culture just because it's disposing. We made it such a convenience. So I'm not saying become a kalangoni, but I am saying that, the materials that we have, we should relook at it and see what we can do beyond composting or burning it, and to keep it recycling and within our ecosystem. Same with people. I think a lot of times we look at people, they'll say that, oh, your retirement age or whatever, it's like, and you had this great career. Yes, but you can use that as a vantage point for you to build a second career or a third career. I'll say just go for it.
Like a platform, whatever you have accumulated over the years to launch something new.
Exactly. I mean, AlterPacks couldn't have come to the point that we are at if it wasn't for all of us, the team members and our connections.
Yeah.
And our ability to be able to network and and I would say connect the dots. You need that first industry experience. And I admire any person who's just entering the entrepreneurship journey when they're just fresh out of school.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that they can do that. For us, we had to learn with our second chances, having to make sure that we're taking our own savings. We have to take our own monies. We have to look at our connections. And we have to really capitalize on all of that to get to the growth sector that we're in right now.
Right. So where AlterPacks is right now, what other growth opportunities do you see moving down in the next 3 to 5 years?
We want to really be that homegrown startup that can create and launch this global company.
Yeah.
So it essentially is about trajectory, spotting the growth opportunities, staying true to our mission, which is to get rid of the throwaway culture and provide alternative food containers to plastics that can have the functionalities of plastics, but without the negative environmental impact.
Fantastic. How can our audience find AlterPacks online, and how can they show your support and their support?
Yeah, well, that would be great. Go on to alterpacks.com. AlterPacks products
Right
will be available with our plastic manufacturers who are coming on board with us. Because they see that their future is really into eco and green alternatives. So yeah.
They do see a bit of, I guess, intimidation from the growing trends that's out there in terms of replacing plastics, right?
Yeah, I would say it's the reality check.
Yeah, it's a reality check, and I guess they have to find partners like you to continue delivering value to the world at large. And I'm really very excited for where AlterPacks is going. So we've seen so many packaging companies out there trying to be sustainable, right? Providing cardboard materials, biodegradable ones. But what AlterPack really stood out for me was the idea of food waste recycling and upcycling.
Yeah. Food waste produced to produce food containers at scale. And to compete with this ubiquitous and very challenging 100 years
Industry.
advantage of plastics.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for your time and sharing with us and the audience about your insights in the whole ins and outs of starting a sustainable business and sharing your journey from being in media to currently a full-time entrepreneur. I really admire you for what you do. Thank you so much for coming to our show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. If you're inspired by our chat with Karen and want to learn more about the social impact space, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to our channel on all platforms that this podcast is on so that we can deliver new content to you. Epic Nation is a passion project created by the team of Epic Dialogue, a Singapore-based marketing agency that helps change-making businesses create social impact through our sustainability, branding, communications, and digital marketing solutions. I'm really curious, do you have any demo box that you can show us?
Yes, because I am shameless about
Yeah.
plugging. So here you go.
Fantastic. Okay. Wow.
Touch. First,
Touch and
Eric,
feel.
it. And
Okay.
then smell it. This is FDA and SFA certified. And then you can knock it. And if only, I would suggest you can actually pour boiling water into it.
Okay.
And then you can even microwave it.
Okay.
And it will be fine.
Fantastic. Oh, actually, the materials inside actually feels like not the usual ones that we see outside as well.
So you can close it.
And then there's a locking mechanism.
There's a locking mechanism.
And then nothing will flow out. Fantastic.
Well, I think if you
We don't do
shake
it like
laksa like that, it will flow out.
Okay,
but
okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, seriously, it shouldn't. But it's a bento box container right now.
Bento box.
Yeah, made out of malt and grains and cereals that a food manufacturer throws out. And it's voila.
Do you have to do
this.
like sorting on this raw material?
No, thank goodness. No. That's the whole point about entrepreneurship. You have to make it as easy as possible. Easy because it's about monies.
Yeah.
The more complicated a process, the more process and steps you have to take from the laboratory into the factory, that will be increasing costs. So our technology is not complex, but it's not replicable.
Wow, fantastic. This is really great to the touch, as well as I don't think it feels toxic or anything like that.
No, none whatsoever. FDA and SFA certification for food contact safe. Yep.
Okay, and if you guys are interested in AlterPacks and its products, remember to visit their website over here. Okay, or you could approach Karen on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, please
Okay.
do.